Welcome everybody to the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card reading. Today's reading was inspired by seeing this topic done by Nada Soul Tarot. Thought it was such an interesting topic, so I want to say my thank yous to her for coming up with the idea. Or I don't know if she came up with the idea. Maybe there's other tarot readers that have done it before, but it was the first time I'd come across it anyway. And it was looking at how people see you in the 3D world, the people around you and so forth, versus how the universe sees you. And I thought that's such an interesting idea. To what degree are how you're coming across in the 3D, what you're doing in your life at the moment, how does that accord with what your spirit team, the divine, all the sort of like universal realms, etc., are seeing your life path and what you are meant to achieve and learn and grow with in this life. So, and is there a synergy between the two? Is there a dissonance? Are there things that you would agree or disagree with either of those viewpoints? Just such an interesting, fertile area to look into. So I really wanted to give it my own spin, use my own sort of way of looking at it through multiple lenses. And so what we'll be doing in the reading is that we'll sort of start out with getting a picture of how people in the 3D world sort of see you, how the spirit world, the universe is seeing you, and what might be the differences there, if any. I'm also going to have a look at past life energies that might be impacting on both those as well. So we'll just look at a little bit about some experiences or things that you've learned, or things that have been difficult, or things that have been blessings in sort of past existences that might be impacting now on how you're coming across in both those realms. They're then going to use the tarot to look at, for your 3D persona, how much what is being perceived by others is accurate and how much might not be. And similarly for the divine, we're going to take a viewpoint that the divine may not fully understand everything that is going on in your situation as well. We really want to sort of see what resonates and what doesn't resonate, and what you might do in relation to that. So we'll then look at how that impacts your fortune and future path at this point, and give you some advice about how to synthesize the two different perspectives to your highest good, and end up with a bit of a humorous card to connect it all together with music, since music is the music of the spheres is sort of almost a very high spiritual way of connecting, and is also a way that we connect in the 3D. So that's what the reading's going to be about and how it's going to be structured. I'll just put down the numbers for the piles. As I'm often doing at the moment, I'm using different decks, different tarot decks for each reading, because that might be a way that you tune in. You may be familiar with the decks or like the particular imagery. I've chosen the judgment card because this is all about the judgment of others, the judgment of the universe, the judgment of people, and you taking the driver's seat and deciding what you would accept with that, what you would want to change, what you would want to increase, and what you would want to synthesize. So for pile number 1, we're using the Penumbra Tarot. For pile number 2, the Wisdom of the Unknown Tarot. Pile number 3, the Ancient Revival Tarot. And pile number 4, the Cute and Creepy Tarot. So hopefully imagery, colours, the decks, or some other thing will help you tune in. If you need to pause the video and contemplate before deciding, by all means do that. If you want to go to more than one reading, by all means do that. Do whatever you're drawn to do. But when you know what reading or readings you want to go to, the timestamps are in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome pile 1 to your reading. These cards here show us a bit about how people in the 3D world see you. What are the sort of key aspects they notice about you and in a sense judge you on, and it doesn't in any sense mean badly, but it's what they're assessing, what they're seeing. And this is the perspective of the universe. And as I say, we will be looking at past life energies and how they impact. And I think that'll be particularly interesting for you, because what people see you as, how they perceive you, how they judge you in the 3D world, they think that you are incredibly skilled. They think that you are very, very creative, you can bring things into being, and you have the wisdom and the emotional acuity to be able to do that with excellent timing that almost appears like luck. And some may in fact think you're lucky. Some who are a bit more jealous might think everything comes to you easily. That's not necessarily true. And I think for the most part, most people know that's not the case. Most people see that you create something, that you have the leadership, the CEO type ability, someone who is likely to be on the fast track if you aren't already, someone who is going to create and lead something in the world, because you know when to take action. And I think those that are fair, as I say, opposed to those that might be jealous of you, will say that what appears to be luck is wisdom and a very, very strong sensing of the environment and so forth. So there's a very strong feeling here in what people are seeing in you is an achiever who can read an environment, read the zeitgeist, create just what is needed at the right time, and can take on the authority and the responsibility as well, but seem to do it effortlessly, seem to know exactly when to move. And they think you've got some sort of keys to the kingdom. There's some wisdom that you have. You're dialed into the universe, you're dialed into the zeitgeist, something like that. So I think if you come to the right reading, pile one, you're somebody that people look up to for your skill and your mastery and your capacity to make really quite big things appear easy because you know when to act and when not to act. So there's a very strong sense around this, around using power, information, and creativity in a responsible way and a way that is beneficial, at the very least to yourself, and some people might say that, but I think more generally because of this, to connect to others. Now, the universe agrees with that, but the thing that's interesting here, the universe absolutely agrees that you have the mastery that you need in the 3D world. You're able to manifest, you're able to create, you're able to do all those things, and that is good. But it has come from a journey, possibly from past lives or even earlier in this life, where you've had to learn to trust and you've had to learn to connect with others. Because with the Anunnaki card turning up there, that is a card, it can mean one of two things. The Anunnaki are both demonized and also seen as gods, depending upon what religion and perspective you're looking at it. So if you were looking at it from an ancient Sumerian perspective, the Anunnaki were gods that brought information and civilization and technology to that particular civilization. So there's a kind of a battle between the gods occurring there about that is not dissimilar to the one in the Greek pantheon where Prometheus gave fire to mankind and therefore got the ire of some of the other gods who thought those humans were going to get a bit uppity or something. So there is a potential that universe sees you as someone who can bring great skill, ability and knowledge to others. But I also think, because we have level 7 consciousness here, which is about living from spirit, starting to do that and starting to help others and starting to connect more with others, that there may have been something in a past life, or as I say earlier in this life, where you have looked at the abuse of power and where power has not been used in a correct way and skill hasn't been used in a correct way. It's been used to control. Now, I don't think the universe thinks you did that. I think the universe thinks that you may have been almost in the battle with that darker energy before, in this life or in ones previously, and it has made you feel a bit detached from other people. It's made you be a bit of a loner, somebody who needs to sort of make sure that you pave your own way. This is where we might get some of this dissonance where your actions that you take and so forth, some people think, oh, it's just lucky because you, even though you are connecting to the zeitgeist, you may not yet be connecting as much to individuals. You are in a journey to learn how to connect and trust more with that, so that your mastery helps others and also doesn't limit you and cut you off from other people. So I think in the 3D world, it's about achievement, it's about mastery, as I say, it's about wisdom, it's about just doing the right thing at the right time and just knowing, just kind of instinctively knowing, so that it appears like luck. But for the spirit level, the divine, the universe is looking at this and seeing this is giving you the platform to connect with others and to take that mastery out to help others, not just to kind of protect yourself, and to trust that you will do that in the right way, that you will bring light. So of the two Anunnaki myths, the one which is more about draconian control compared to the one that is about helping mankind in a Promethean sort of way, it's more the Promethean sort of way without the outcome that Prometheus had to look after. There's no sense here that the divine sees you as having to suffer for this. It's reconnecting you because you really are connected, and people do sense that you're connected. And once you really fully connect the dots on that level, it helps with your creation as well, and people will see you even more as creative and a kind of entrepreneur rather than a boss is sort of the feeling I'm getting that it would move into. But this is very much what the universe, what spirit wants to talk to you about. There's many different ways that we could look at how people view you versus the universe. But I think because the universe is so interested in seeing your journey of connecting with others to share your mastery, that's what we're seeing reflected in the 3D. So as I say, I think there's something interesting, and some of you might go, yeah, look, I know what this is. It was in my upbringing, it was in my first job, so it may be in this life, but I think for many it could be past life, and I wanted to look at past life energies around the connection of the two in this current incarnation, and I think it'll be interesting to see. So I'm just going to put out 4 cards from a deck that looks at past life experiences, places, etc., just to see if we get any more information about why this is the focus of the universe, and I think therefore becomes the focus of your 3D manifestation. Okay, Mesopotamian civilization. So similar sort of timing. You probably were around Sumeria, Mesopotamia, all of those sort of things. Plague disease, okay. Marriage union. Love and courtship. Okay. So I think this is saying that something happened in one of these more ancient times in an ancient life that you're still carrying. And as a result, you have got some issues around connection. I think maybe you lost someone to the plague, or you saw it and you felt that it was not handled correctly. You may have been involved in a relationship where you felt that it was not appropriate, like maybe you're with the powers of the world and it was not appropriately used. Or as I say, you could have lost someone. And that might have been so painful that you are now focusing on the sort of material side of things and taking action there and creating that rather than trying to bring the emotional in. Whereas the divine, the universe wants you to connect more on an emotional level. You can decide whether it is in some form of individual love, but at the very least it needs to be connecting more with people, because it's your one blind spot. It's the one thing where you could be so much more than what you are currently already showing to people. People are already impressed with you, but you appear a bit on a pedestal. You appear a little bit outside of the norm. You're an outlier in some way. People don't feel that they can completely connect with you or be with you because you're so entrepreneurial, as I say. And this is being driven. You are driven around career material things because of some loss, I think, and some potential issue that might have also connected with power that brought that about. Different social status, different resources. Perhaps you lost someone to the plague because you were not at a high enough social status to save them, for instance. There's something like that that's permeating you and making you very materially focused rather than heart focused. And the divine would like you to also consider the heart focus. So let's have a look with the tarot. So let's first of all, as I said, I'm going to pull 3 cards for your 3D persona that you see and know, and 3 that you maybe don't see that other people see in you. And I'm then going to do the same thing around the divine. Okay, so things that you see and are. And then what you don't perhaps see. Okay, so people definitely see you as someone who has power over resources or will have power over resources if you're just starting your career or finishing your study. There is something about you that shows that you will know how to build from a base, act quickly, make decisions, and potentially work very much within the normal powers of the world. So this is why we've got the CEO card coming up. You're creative and quick and able to sort of pick up the zeitgeist with the Judgment card, but the Hierophant, you seem conventional in terms of the powers of the world. You're likely to be in an organisation, run an organisation, that kind of thing, more than necessarily being a sole trader, for instance, or being a creative person in this sort of artistic sense. So, and you see this and you know that people see that in you, and I don't think you necessarily disagree with it. But I think that you may feel here with the 5 of Pentacles that things have been a bit harder for you than other people think. They see the outcomes, they don't see the struggle. Over here, for what you maybe don't see that others see in you, is sometimes people feel you're a bit stubborn and that you maybe hide your own light a bit. People sense this creative side, but you're suppressing it to some degree. You're very material and conventional, but not in a boring sense. Just that it's like in the powers of the world. Whereas other people are seeing this creativity and they feel like, there's something there, and this is partly where this sort of magic is to read the room, to read the zeitgeist and so forth. They kind of think a different perspective would help you, not to be a little bit stubborn, possibly. Stubborn about what is right and wrong. And there's a reason for that. Picking up the sort of divine thing, you have seen right and wrong, and you are very, very clear on wanting to do that. But I think that some people think that you tie yourself up a bit in that, and you dim some of your light by being so rules-based in a way that you're not allowing your own natural creativity to come out. Okay, so let's see what the divine has to say about this. So let's sort of see what you kind of know that the divine thinks about you, and then a little bit about what you may not know or may not fully agree with. Okay. Okay, so what you would probably agree with the divine about, you would say, yeah, I know, that's true, I can see that, is that you have suppressed some of your heart a bit. And therefore, I think other people are seeing as your creativity, but in reality, the divine sees at a higher perspective, and it's suppressing your heart a bit. You have done that. You probably go, yeah, I'm kind of putting that to the side. I'm looking after what I can control. I'm looking after what I can grow. The divine would be saying you're very much an investment focus. I'm sorry about that, pile one. That noise was just a delivery coming, so I had to just pause for a second. So as I was saying, I think that you would say, yes, I agree that the divine is right. I'm looking at material things and I'm making material choices. That's where I'm putting my focus at the moment. And it's working for me, so I'm not necessarily worried about that. But yes, I have put this aside. What you may not see that the divine is saying, you may or may not agree with, is that I got the sense when I put down the Seven of Swords, I sort of heard bargaining with the universe and to deal with old emotional pain so that you can create something that is more lasting, that then eventually you may be able to get back to your heart. So I feel as though the divine is seeing that you're offering up a bit of a bargain around this. You're saying, I will think about my heart and I will think about healing the pain when I've achieved my legacy in the material world. And I think the divine would be saying you're going to actually achieve it quicker if you connect to your heart and to your passion. So that's where I think you might disagree with the universe, but the divine is seeing this from the perspective that your real, the marriage of your basic sort of creativity and genius and all that kind of thing with your heart actually takes you further towards what you want and potentially heals a lot of the sort of wounds and so forth from the past. And again, whether that's in this current life from things that you've experienced or whether it was from a past life. So the universe is saying you can do the bargain with us, but in actual fact it's probably going to go a bit slower to get where you want to go. That really, if you let in a bit more of the emotion, you connect more, you actually go faster and achieve what you want faster. But you're allowed to do it. The universe isn't stopping you. The universe would just like you to open your heart a bit, have it happen faster and be happier in the process. Okay, so let's have a look at what kind of impacts of this dissonance that occurs. And it's not a major dissonance, it's really just an approach as much as anything. But what impacts does this have on kind of what we would call fortune? So I'm going to use astrology cards first because in a sense your natal chart does describe quite a bit. I would think that you would have a lot in the upper, if you see your chart, upper side of the chart around the 10th house, 9th house potentially, maybe quite a bit in the 2nd house, that kind of thing. But astrology gives the sense of the map of what's going on in your life and the drivers in your life. And then we're going to use 2 fortune card decks for fortune energy that's around you because of the balance of how people are seeing you, how the universe is seeing you, and what you do or don't agree with in relation to both. So firstly, astrology. Cancer. Saturn, fixed. Okay. So this is saying the protection of the heart, which is a big part for you, does slow things down and it makes you come this stubbornness that some people feel. Like literally it could be as simple as people want you to not work so hard and come out and party a bit and have fun, and you just never have time, and you're a bit stubborn about it with how people sort of respond to that. But equally for the divine, with being fixed on your purpose and what you're going to do and what you're going to create, and then you'll think about other things, they feel it slows things down, and it makes you older than you need to be. You know, you're kind of taking yourself to an older age kind of mentally than you need at this point, but it's protecting your heart. So it's just saying that while you protect your heart to that degree, you slow down some of your progress. Again, doesn't stop it overall. You're not going to be unsuccessful, I don't think. It's just whether or not you would get there quicker and whether or not you would enjoy it a bit more on the way. So let's have a look at some fortune energy that's around you at the moment as a result of this. Honor and good luck. A barrier keeps you from your own goal, which might be your own stubbornness, to be honest, pile one. And rejuvenation and fulfillment with a cup, with the Ace of Cups. So again, this stops you to some degree. I don't think it stops you full stop, but it slows you down with Saturn. There's honor and good luck coming to you anyway. You are going to be successful. People already see you as successful on the fast track, already getting there and so forth. But there is fulfillment and rejuvenation if you take away the barrier of the limitations you're putting on yourself. Okay, and then let's look at Chinese fortune for a couple of other fortune energies around you at the moment, pile one. Yin and Yang. Reunions. Oh, okay. So either it's something in this life, like a broken heart from this life or a relationship that didn't work out, or it may even be karmically you're going to come across the person who maybe you lost before, if that was the energy. There is a reunion with your heart, and there is a reunion with love and with a person potentially. And that is the yin and yang. This is the balance. All that both the people who are watching you in the 3D and the divine are saying. They're saying this really, really intelligent, capable person who's going to go so far, but they feel like you're out of balance. That your friends, I think, and colleagues think that you suppress some of your creativity and some of your fun side. The divine thinks you're suppressing your heart. This is about bringing into balance, bringing you back into reunion. That's all that really needs to happen. Everything kind of opens up for you then even more. You'll seem even more lucky, to be honest, but it'll be just because you've opened that door to that connection. Okay, so that's not necessarily the easiest thing to do if you're protecting your heart and so forth. So let's have a look at some spiritual gifts and advice and also practical elements that could help you with this. So we're going to start with a couple of cards from two different spiritual decks for gifts or approaches that might help you, and then we're going to use the heart code oracles around relationship and career for more practical elements. So spiritual gifts. Hell, making your own drama. Third eye, trusting what you know. Okay, I think that this is saying that you have the capacity to create either a heaven or hell. You can do both, so while you limit yourself and make the drama from the past, you continually replicate it. It is really pointing to the fact that you can manifest, and really reconnecting and trusting that deeper knowing will help you. It's like getting past the sort of like protecting yourself, because your own energy of creation and manifestation is such that you keep yourself in just the material world and just looking at that and not finding the love if you that's where you focus. A lot of manifestation in terms of magic, in terms of true magic, is about focus. It's about where you put your awareness. So this is about making sure it's not living into something that limits you. Third eye is communication and communion with others, trusting the connection. Once you do that and trust what comes in with that, then you take yourself out of this. So let's see another couple of pieces of advice spiritually for you. Guide. Release. Okay. Your spiritual team, your guides up there, they just want you to release the pain. They want you to embrace the capacity for happiness again. They can see how far you can travel. They can see how far you have traveled. But there is something you need to release. Just focusing on the material is not going to deal with the pain. And a guide, you have spirit team there to help you. So let's have a look. Let's start first with relationship, then we'll go to career, because I think relationship is the key thing here. So what energy or focus or thing to think about would help around relationships for you to bring how people see you and the divine sees you more in alignment with how you would want to be seen? Love from beyond. Okay. Look, there's definitely something. Maybe you've lost someone in this life and you've shut your emotions down for that reason. But I think for many of you, it's some past life connection that was very strong. But I think there could be a reunion. We've sort of seen that before, certainly on the spiritual level, but possibly in the material as well. But you have to sort of accept that love energy to come in. And also that your guides and your spirit team love you. They want to do this to help you. So let's have a look at career. And we have change. I don't think that necessarily means that you need to sort of leave a job if you're in a job or something, because I think you're on a fast track or you're on the right path materially, but it's just a change in the focus, a change in how you approach this. That's all that's really necessary, because everything that you've got is good. I think that's not the problem. It's just a bit of a change in focus, a bit of a change in where you put your energies, and all of that will actually help with the growth and getting you to this 10 of Pentacles, because the divine says you're heading there. You know you're heading there. It's just how quickly and happily you get there. Okay, so to finish off, we had a music oracles card right at the bottom. So this is to bring it all together with music. So an icon from the music industry, from some part in the history of music. And this can just be funny sometimes. Other times it can be really on point. So take it as humorous if it's just funny. Otherwise, take whatever messages resonate for you. And you have Bruce Springsteen. Wow. Okay, so if you think about Bruce Springsteen, did incredibly well, was very successful, very popular, but he really connected to his heart. He connected his material circumstances and material background to his heart. So there's something there for you. What his advice is, firstly, there will always be magic even on the darkest nights. So believe in your magic, believe in your luck, believe in your guiding star. He says, may your mistakes, like your sins, be your own. So I think it's really saying, and I don't think either side, people around you or the divine, think you're doing anything wrong. They just think that you could be a little bit lighter on yourself and enjoy life a bit more. And he finally says, follow the river, but keep your eyes on the sea. What's the longer term goal that you're on? Go with the flow, go with what works, go with the timing, but keep your eye on the prize. So, Paul, and I hope that resonates for you. It is very, very materially focused, but it is also about the heart. So I hope that does resonate and you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear about it. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. So these cards here are meant to give a bit of sense about how people in the 3D are viewing you, rightly or wrongly. And that's the case with all of this, because even the divine could be potentially not fully understanding everything you're trying to do. So this is the current sort of energy around how you're being perceived in a very general sense. And this is the energy that the divine is looking at and seeing and perceiving you as being. So this is interesting. There's a little bit of potential tough love in this, I've got to say, though it depends on how it plays out, because it could go either way. Because we have the gambler archetype, and then we have denial and windfall and magician, there may be people around you who think that you gamble a bit too much, whether it's with money, whether it's with career, whether it's with just anything in your life, that you may sort of, believe in luck, deny the sort of like the realities of life sometimes and so forth. But on the other hand, it looks as though you are quite lucky. You seem to have a bit of a magic of bringing it in. So I feel like there's some people who are frustrated around you who are either a bit jealous and think, how is it that you always land on your feet? And there's an interesting allegory when we get over to the divine there. So remember that, or I'll try and remember it, how you always land on your feet, even though it appears like you're taking risks. So people certainly think you're a risk taker. And they may think, if they are concerned for you, that you deny the risk sometimes. But they equally can't deny that you seem to, as I say, land on your feet more often than not. And some see that that's because you are more aware of the details and you're more structured and grounded and balanced in this than others see. So I think you look like an entrepreneurial spirit. That's what I would probably say. Someone who will test things out, try things out. And a lot of the time, because of your ability, it's going to work for you. But every once in a while it may not. But I think you look like you're reasonably okay with that. But I do think that some people either see you as a risk taker and so forth, and not sort of to be relied on, because I think maybe they're a bit jealous of how much you really have planned, and you have got the goods. But some may be doing it also because they're concerned. So it may depend upon the relationship. But you are definitely quite mercurial, definitely very magical. But there's something here that I think that you're in a quest to find. A lot of the gambling and so forth and the windfalls and what comes out of it is you are trying to seek a balance and trying to seek something that you think is materially worthwhile. Some people perceive that as denial, but I think it's that you know what you don't want. You're just trying to sort out what you do want. And that's interesting given how the divine sees you. The divine sees you as going through a process of awakening. So it's almost as though you've chanced to luck and had fun and all of that kind of thing, and maybe you've had a few reversals, you've understood the risks associated with it, and you are starting to work out who you truly are. So there is an awakening going on. You've disillusioned with much spiritual stuff. So if you, for instance, had believed in the law of attraction and it hadn't worked for you, that wasn't what worked. Your planning and your balance was what worked, rather than just sitting and contemplating it. Then you're disillusioned. Maybe you have looked at various spiritual traditions to see if you can work out how to sort of work the system and understand it and crack the matrix and so forth. So the divine sees you as maybe a bit disconnected from your spiritual self. It's like you are now looking out for yourself, and you're saying, I take the risks, I do that kind of thing, I'm not going to be beholden to anyone, and possibly because some people just haven't understood you. But it's affecting your kind of spiritual connection, because there is an awakening going on. You're meant to be a material manifester. You're on a life path 8. That in many ways what you are doing in the material world that people are seeing is right, particularly this Virgo and Libra balance sort of energy. But there is something where you've disconnected a bit from your spiritual self. And I think it is about whatever kind of pushback or competition or something that's been going on in the 3D, because we have the Lyrans here, and they are actually a race of sort of cat-like feline aliens. And that's why I was saying land on the feet, because this particular race is said to have been around when the Sphinx was created with Egypt. And they have been in battles, they have done what they needed to do, they stand up for what is right, and they do not suffer fools. They now are largely peaceful and not as active in the universe. So there's an energy of that around you. So you do not suffer fools. You would not like lightweight spirituality. You want something that can truly manifest and be real. And I think that you don't like a lot of what people take in that space. And so there's sort of the energy over here where you are going to be your own master. And they're saying that is becoming because of that. But you need to awaken back to who you are spiritually, to not deny the spiritual, because there is value in it. So I think the divine feels a little bit off to the side in your calculus at the moment, pile 2. It can't be too far off to the side if you've come to a reading like this, but I think it's just that you've seen a lot of stuff that just didn't take spiritually. So you're a lot more wary about that. You're a lot more trusting in your own ability. And that's why some people in the 3D world think that you take risks, because you're very much your own person. Okay, so let's use the tarot. Oh no, before we do that, what I wanted to also do was use a deck that has past life information, just to see if there's anything in past lives that have to do with any dissonance between where you see yourself and where others see you. And I think in particular here it might pick up something about the disillusionment around spirituality, though this could have happened in this life as well. But let's just see what past life information there is for you as well. Financials. Baby children. Factory. Father. Okay. I feel like there was a life probably around the sort of Industrial Revolution, that kind of thing, where you were probably a parent, most likely a father, though I don't think the gender matters that much. You had responsibilities, fathers, and money. Money was potentially short or hard to come by. You had lots of abilities, but maybe because of whatever social group you were born in, you couldn't rise above that, and you worried about that. This is why you want to be in control of your financial life or your business life. You want to do it. You don't want to rely on others. It's also possible that you had to rely on broader family, people to help you out there, or the community to help you out in some way. This is why you're fiercely independent. And it may be that something occurred in that space that was a reversal that made you feel disconnected from your spiritual roots and your spiritual belief. Like you may have gone through something that was so much hardship that you're now very focused on never having that happen again. And you're not going to be looking at spiritual stuff as being a crutch for you. It's not. But somewhere in this, the divine is trying to say you went through that to have accelerated development, to understand some of the things not to do so that you can actually manage this right and not sit in denial. And that's part of your awakening. Okay, so let's get a little bit more information with tarot. So we're going to start with 3 cards for what other people see that you'd probably agree with, and then 3 cards that you may not agree with or you may not see, and then we'll do the same for the divine. So we're just going to go for a little bit more detail on how you are seen in both those levels and how you respond to that. Okay, so for the most part, what you do see or agree with, or you can see that people see, is that you see that people see you're up for the battle. You're ready for the battle, and you won't shift, change. You can be stubborn about this until you get the closure and the outcome that you want. So you're outcomes focused, and you stay the course, and you are prepared to take on some of the stress. So the people who sort of say, well, you kind of gamble a bit, you're a bit of an entrepreneur, you know, you take risks that other people won't take, you'll go, yeah, that's right, because I'm okay to be in a bit of conflict. I know what I'm trying to do, and I'm not going to rush it, and I'm going to finish it. Over here, people see you, as I say, as being much more likely to be able to do this than you even give yourself credit for. For you, it's sort of the battle, and you can see the battle, and you can see that you can stay the distance. They see that too with the 9 of Wands. You don't give up easily, but they also see you as someone with a lot of ability, a lot of financial knowledge. So whatever you picked up from this past life or earlier in your life, if this is actually something that more represents earlier in your life and your family circumstances, you have really got a lot going for you, and people do think that you can achieve it. And they do think that you can see it through. So overall, I mean, I just think there's a few people maybe jealous or a little bit, maybe they're people that are closer to you, and the implications if something doesn't work out is more immediate to them, and they don't want you to just blindly see it through just to see it through, to be so sort of like fixed on it that you see it through if it's not working. But you see it as a battle, and you see them as battling. So there's a little bit of a battle feeling in all of this for you, I think, that life is a bit of a battle. And some people get that and some people don't. So let's see what the divine has to say. So let's look a little bit more about what you'd probably agree with, or you could see that the divine would see it in you, and then what you maybe don't realise the divine sees, or you might, you know, have an argument with. Because I think you are a bit argumentative, Pile 2, and there's nothing wrong with that. So firstly, what you would probably agree with. And what you might argue with a bit. Okay. So action-oriented stuff. What the divine sees around action for you, you probably see in yourself and you would agree with. And this is sort of that you won't be trapped by that which is not right for you, that you will take the battle on if you have to, move on if you have to. So you're not as stuck and as stubborn as maybe people think you are. And I think you think the divine sees that. You are a creature of change, of revolution, and of passion and of creativity. So you have a cause. There is something that you're doing here, and you are very unafraid. And the divine, you think the divine sees that, and the divine supports that. What you think, however, that you don't, or you don't necessarily see, is that divine wants you to be more free in how you think and feel. It's as though they just want you to ease off on the pedal just a little bit, because there is a lot of emotional joy and intellectual freedom you could have by not being as much on your own. There's a kind of a lone wolf energy here, actually, because it's, you know, the entrepreneur. With the Four of Swords reversed, the divine would like you to connect a little bit more with other people, to not feel that that is somehow part of the battle, to free your own intellectual chains around that, and to heal whatever the emotional side is. And you might go, well, look, yeah, I can kind of see that, but I really, you know, I'm on a mission at the moment. I've got to achieve this. You know, that's what I'm doing, and really that will clear it out anyway. The tower will take all before it. So you may or may not agree with the divine, but they feel that you have straitjacketed yourself a bit and hidden your emotions to deal with the change energy and the gambling and risk taking that you do to build a fortune, which you will probably do. Okay. So let's have a look at how this affects fortune. So we're going to look firstly with some astrological energy, then with a couple of fortune decks, just to see how your fortunes are being impacted by any differences between how you see yourself and how others in the universe sees you, or any synergies between both those things. So Virgo, and you had Virgo before and how people saw you. Aries and conjunction. So I'm going to I'll deal out and look at the planets around the conjunction in a minute. But Virgo, definitely, that you are someone who can materialize things. You are someone who can get the details right. This is why you're not taking as big a risk as people think. And I think the divine knows that. They're just worried that you're disconnecting from your spiritual side, but your material side is on point, as is your drive. The drive is there. Conjunction could either work really well or could be difficult depending upon what planets it is. So I'm just going to shuffle and then deal out till we get planets. And bear with me because it could take a little while to get to a planet as you deal them out. Neptune. So there's the spiritual. And Saturn, yes. You are very much limiting your spiritual. I mean, you actually have the capacity to manifest. That's what this is saying. It's part of your life path. But the spiritual aspects of that, you don't fully trust, or you want it to be all in the planning, material, and proven. You are suppressing to some degree some of your spiritual energy. However, if you reverse that and make Neptune a little bit more dominant on Saturn, your spiritual connection helps you then to materialize and manifest. So it's sort of like it's just potential. I think the divine is saying you're giving too much weight to Saturn and not enough to Neptune. Shift that weight a little bit. Let's have a look at the fortune energy that you're generating at the moment. Two different decks to give us some information on that. So firstly, the Knight, the Spirit, and the Caduceus. So you will triumph over adversity. You are going to win. The people who think you just sit in denial because you're sort of fighting these battles, they don't see the bigger picture. And this doesn't mean every single thing you do is going to be right, pile two, and that every single entrepreneurial business or other thing you do will work out. But more often than not, it's going to. That you have the goods to do that. And you also, even if you're denying some of the spiritual support, there is unseen spiritual forces watching over you. It looks as though you're going to hear something soon that will take some of this forward for you, that will help your fortunes move forward. So looking at Chinese fortune energy for you. Work, yeah, you're very much about your work and wisdom. So I think this is, the more you can bring wisdom, the wisdom that you actually have, the wisdom with the Lyran sort of energy, all that kind of thing to your work, the more the fortune is going to work for you. If you just take the work part of it, you just keep on keeping on without applying the wisdom, then you could slow things down or make people worried for you. But you need to do both. It's not just the doing, it's also the thinking through, which I think you had right at the beginning, and I think people see that you have that, but it's still an important part to your fortune. Okay, so the other things that's important to your fortune is spiritual abilities and attunement, and also what happens with your relationships and your career. So firstly, we're just going to look at some spiritual attunement that could help you. Then we're going to look at the more 3D elements. Familiar, intimate companion, and vampire. Okay, So I think this is saying, you know, having a pet or something like that, that Lyran, like you may be connected to cats, potentially, like quite literally, having a cat might be helpful to you, or just that could be a spirit energy, a familiar around you, not cutting yourself off. You don't have to do all this alone. The vampire, sustaining your aspirations. I think this is about knowing when to move forward and when to let go. That's probably the one thing that helps you. If you have the awakening to the spiritual, you'll get the information to help you with that, so that your thing just never becomes an addiction. It just becomes something that is the life force for you. But you know how to sustain that and when to sort of let go as well. Okay, let's look at another deck. Listen and journey. Okay. I think this is spiritual. She's saying, please listen to us. You know, please don't shut us out. You know, we really are trying to help you. This is a long journey that you're on. You're going to be very successful, but you can be happier with it as well too. And not all spirituality is going to let you down. We are there for you. Please listen. Okay, so let's have a look at the 3D side. We're going to pull a card for relationship energy, and we're going to pull a card for career energy. So relationship, letting go. I don't think this is necessarily about letting go of relationships. So it is possible that if there are any that are in denial of what you're doing, or who are putting too much pressure, or who don't understand you, or who are judging you harshly, maybe you need to let go of those people. But I think it's more letting go of the kind of monomaniacal focus, so that you can actually let relationship into your life. You know, it's about balance. It's been about balance all the way through this reading. So let's have a look at career, which is something I think you're very focused on in one form or another. And we have simplify. So yeah, simplify what you're doing. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't make it everything. Let go of some of the old emotional patterns. Simplify what you're doing. And that will help you reconnect to your spiritual side, I think, and reconnect to your true ability to manifest. Just simplify to the degree that you can. Virgo can sometimes over-analyze and get into analysis paralysis, so don't get into that. Use Aries is more likely to be the simplifying energy, because it just needs to move forward. Okay, so what we're going to do now is look at the Music Oracle card. So this was also under the tarot card that brought you here. It's meant to close out the reading with a bit of humour. So if it really has a deep meaning, take it, but if not, just take the humour from it. But it's meant to be a kind of a musical energy to connect the music of the spheres with the music of life. And you have Patti Smith. Wow. So you're intense. You're always going to be intense, pile 2. Her advice to you is Jesus died for somebody's sins, but not yours. So yeah, like what is in the past and what judgments people put on you is not the point. Move forward with what is true to you. She says, learn to make peace with eternal dissatisfaction. So maybe when you are so dialed into manifestation, there's always going to be a degree to which not everything works out. You just need to be at peace with that. It's not going to repeat whatever this was, this difficult life, or an earlier stage in your current life. And lastly, the most powerful form of rebellion is of the spirit, so don't forget the spirit. That's the divine, making sure they get the last word, pile 2. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope it was helpful and you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So these cards are how the 3D world, how other people are seeing you at the moment. And these are how the divine is seeing you. And we'll look at some past life information, which I think will be very interesting in your case, to see what the difference is between these two viewpoints. Within how people see you, there's two viewpoints as well. One is the dominant, but there is also one other. And I think that this somehow connects to the divine energy. Not in a way that the secondary way of looking at you is actually accurate, but it might be the residual of something that you're still carrying that some people pick up. So what I mean is that for most people, you seem to be incredibly beautiful soul, incredibly giving. You're always offering to others, really sort of old soul, mature soul, very sort of smart, clear in your communication, all of those things, but very, very generous. And potentially, I mean, you potentially could work in the beauty industry or something like that, or could be very physically beautiful. But I feel that your giving heart is seen by many, and they see it as your primary offering. There is a possibility, and you have to be wary of this with Capricorn I use, that some people may be drawn to you because you're so giving and kind of see you as a supply of something to them. But I also think that there are some who look at this and they think this is sort of setting up to get something. There's some cynical people around you, Pole 3. I don't think that they're accurate at all. I think you really are this giving soul. I think most people are seeing you for what you are. But I think that there are a few people around you who are naysayers and go, this is too good to be true. What's the catch? When's the other shoe going to drop? And it may be particularly in your business world. Or you may be someone, because of the generosity of your soul, you've brought in a lot of luck and so forth into your business world or career and done really well. So they think, oh, this is what it's really about. But it's not accurate. That bit's not accurate. You're much more this other person. But it's interesting that it's there. In fact, and as I say, you're more likely to be used by people because of how generous you are than the other way around. But it's interesting that it's there because the divine sees you as having come through an enormous change and an enormous growth, and having learnt how and why this is so important, this generous energy. They see you as having enormous resilience, that against all odds you can keep on and you can keep this generosity, because you at some point in another life, I would say, hit rock bottom. Or it may even be in this life, that what has created you now as a giving, generous person is having been, on the streets or something like that, something where you didn't really have the resources or the help from anybody, and the divine sees you as burning karma with this. And it's not even necessarily your bad karma. It could be generational karma. It could be either. But it is on an accelerated path. It's like the divine and you agreed that you were going to be resilient in this life and maybe a more recent one. And that you are watching for the messages about how and what to learn, how to burn that karma. And it's like, your higher self knows at the very least that this giving, generous nature both takes you out of that energy, but it also burns any of the residual from it. So, and you are highly psychic. You can connect, you can pick up things with crop circles, you pick up messages, you see signs, and that helps you with being resilient. But the divine thinks you're amazingly strong and amazingly attuned, and doing so much work to, as I say, I think not only burn karma for yourself, but for others that you care about, because you know what it feels like, and you're not going back there, and they're not suggesting at all that you're going back there. But it may be that means that you are so focused on material things so that your generosity can stop anybody, including yourself, from being rock bottom, that some people might think it's really about the money, and that's not what it's about to you. But you've learned what you need to do in the 3D world to be in a position where not only can you look after yourself financially, but also support and protect others. So this is where the dissonance is. The focus that you have comes from a more divine purpose that you have, and a karma type purpose that you're dealing with. Most people see it and get it, but some people detract because they're probably projecting their own stuff on you. So let's have a look with the visions of a past life oracle, just about some past life energy, because I do think that this is, as I say, accelerating the development and the processing of possibly both your karma and that of people that you care about, because you're so generous, you probably would take on some other karma if the opportunity was there. So let's just see what a sort of recent past life energy might have that's impacting how you're seen both by others and by the divine. Communal living, father, starseed, yeah. Indus Valley civilization. Okay, for a start, it's saying that who you are has come from a number of past lives. These are different past life energies, I think. It's possible that those two might be connected, but I sort of think they might not be too. It's saying starseed connection is part of the reason why you're really connected to the divine and to the spiritual. You see a bigger picture, and it's where some of this old soul, and in fact it makes sense with a number of past lives, old soul, that makes sense. So there's starseed origins for you. Communal living, it may be, I think, that might have been the outcome of some life where you couldn't provide for yourself, and possibly you might have been a parent and not been able to provide for others. If those lives aren't the same, and it's possible with you we're looking at 4 different lives, you may well also have taken on caring and nurturing roles, and that comes into who you are as well now. We also have the Indus Valley Civilization, the period between 3,300 BC and 1900 BC, so before the time of Christ. And so this is, a more ancient civilization. Maybe that's where the starseed connection is. It may be that those two are connected and those two are connected. But in any case, there is a sense here that you have had many lives and you have had to rely on the generosity of others and the communal living and so forth. You have had to look after people, and you do have messages that have helped civilizations move forward. That's where you've got your resilience from and your old soul. And most people see this. Most people see what the divine see. What they don't see is the derivation of it, because of how can they? Only the divine could see that. Okay. It's very interesting actually that you came to the reading with the Ancient Revival tarot deck, because to me this is often one that I align with past life readings. So I think there's a lot of past life stuff for you. You are a very old soul. But what we're going to do with the tarot is we're going to pull 3 cards for what people in the 3D see of you that you probably know and you probably agree with, what you maybe don't see that they think or you might not agree with, and then similarly for the divine, just to get a little bit more information. Okay, so this is interesting. I actually feel here for what you would, more that people see that you would agree with or think. I actually wonder if it even is what people think, or it's what you think they think, to be honest, because this looks like you are picking up a lot on some of this negative energy. This looks like you feel as though your emotional energy and your generosity and so forth is draining. It's not being seen. It's being seen as not being what it is, not being the decision it is, not being able to move things forward. So there's a few things here. There may be, actually, I'm getting that for some, when they watch how generous you are, they may think you're too generous. They may think that you put too much of your emotional energy into lost causes or so forth, and you need to make a better decision about what to do. And that could be true, but I do also think you're picking up on some of this negative energy. I do think that you are misjudged by some people. I don't think it's most people, Pile 3, I really don't. But I do think that there are some that project that stuff on you and you're aware of it. And it's a little bit emotionally upsetting and wearing because you come from a very pure place. What you don't necessarily see and or would disagree with, I don't think you'll necessarily disagree with this, but you don't see it, is that most people think you're wonderful. Most people think your judgment is incredibly fair and that you are very evolved, and they think that you can deal with and dissipate conflict really, really well. So they see the more negative energy around you as just petty rubbish, and they see you as being able to move past it. I think what they don't see, and what you would not agree with because you do know yourself better here, is that it hurts you more than they realise. Because you come from a very good place and you're trying to do a lot spiritually in this world for both your own karma and development and more generally for others. So, but I don't think you realise how much most people really admire you. Okay, so then let's have a look at what the divine, so what you kind of would agree and you sort of know the divine think, and then what maybe you don't realise the divine thinks and you may or may not agree with. Okay, it's very interesting actually, the messages coming from this. So what you would probably agree with, or you kind of know, is that the divine knows, and so you feel okay with that. You are not playing games, you are not being manipulative, you are not bargaining with the universe in any. You are doing this because it is the right thing to do, and you're trying to build something that is stable. But the divine also knows that sometimes you give more than you should, that you let more of your resources out than you should. So you kind of know that the divine thinks that you are selfless and therefore maybe more generous than you need to be. This is why it hurts that some people don't get what you're doing, But you know that the divine sort of sees that, and the divine doesn't think you're giving more just to somehow burn more karma and get at something for you, that it's coming from a genuine place. What you don't realise is that the divine is almost weeping for you about how beautiful you are, that you aren't, and I'm feeling a little bit emotional when I say this, that you don't see how much you are loved, that you think that you're on your own in all of this, and that it's really hard to keep all the emotional things in balance, and there isn't the support for you, but in fact there is. So the divine really wants you to know that you are loved, and what you're doing is very much admired, and you don't need to do it all on your own. And gee, that hit me really hard, I've got to say. Sorry, I just sort of got very teary. So that's a very strong message from the divine to you. They see the beauty in your heart, and they see the pain that you have, and when you're misjudged. But both the divine and other people see far more beauty in you, this is why beauty's here, than you actually recognise in yourself. Okay, so just kind of shake that off a bit so I can move on, because that really impacted me emotionally. So the next thing that we want to look at is how this impacts your fortune at the moment. So we're going to start with some astrological cards. Venus, there's the love energy for you. Third quarter, out with the old, in with the new. That's probably what's necessary for you. And new moon, plant what you desire. Knowing a little bit more about this, realizing that the people who don't get you have their own stuff, and how much you are admired and how much you are loved can help you to get back to your heart and feel more loved in your heart, more able to let go of what isn't working, and more able to then plant the seeds of what you want in the future and take it forward. So your offerings will become even more perfect because you've started to align them with your own heart and also with yourself, which I think is important, pile 3. Let's use a couple of fortune cards or fortune decks for you. The Chimera, imagination clouds your judgment. The Stars, a long journey brings rewards. And seduction, passion and romance await. Well, that's lovely. So love's coming for you if you felt alone, or if you've been in a relationship and you feel like the passion was sort of dwindling a bit, it looks like it's coming back. Long journey, what you're doing, you're getting through a lot. This is a very important life for you. But I think the Chimera here is overemphasizing those that are the naysayers, because they're really a small group within something much larger in what you're trying to do. So don't let that cloud your love nature. Don't let that stop you seeing how much you're loved, as I say. Let's see what Chinese fortune wants to tell you. We have renewal. Oh, and we have love. Okay, well, that makes sense. So renewal of your love nature, renewal of love in your life potentially coming in, renewal of your sense of self-love, your sense of love of the divine, love with others, all of that sort of stuff. That's because you're doing the work. You deserve this. You're earning this, pile 3. Okay, so to get there, let's look at how we synthesize it. So we're going to start with a couple of decks that are around spiritual gifts that could help you. Then we're going to look at relationship and career on a more 3D level. So firstly, what spiritual gifts could help pile 3? Aura and afterlife. Okay, so aura, protecting your boundaries. You may pick up and you may see auras potentially. That's a sort of side issue for this, but it's possible. But I think this is more, you do need to protect your boundaries a bit, and you need to only take in the judgments that are fair. Afterlife, reviewing your choices. You're just very connected to the karmic cycle. You get this, you understand this. This is why you kind of see what the divine has for you. You see the point of this. And it's true. You're not bargaining, as I say, with the universe. You're actually right there in that process. But always review your choices with that. Always make sure that it's in balance. Okay, let's use another deck for some more advice. Release. So yes, release the white noise. These people aren't worth it. And guide. I think that might have come up with one of the other readings. There's a guide that will help you. Spirit is with you. They will guide you through this. You're on the right path. You know, you just need to release the naysayers and the energy that doesn't understand you. And so speaking of that sort of thing, let's have a look at what relationship energy is around you at the moment, or you could bring in potentially by sort of synthesizing these viewpoints. Attitude, yeah. So it's all about attitude. The relationships around you, the relationships that are right for you and good for you and that love you as you deserve to be loved, have the right attitude. They see where you come from and they see what your attitude is. They see where you're coming from. The people who don't get it have an attitude and it's theirs and it's their problem, and that's probably the thing that needs to be released, those sort of people. Let's look at career. Investor. Okay, so it's possible that there's something in your career where what you're offering is the beauty of it, the worth of it will be really seen and really wanting to be supported. So I think it could be saying that you're going to get some support coming through for your career, some money and so forth in to take forward what you're trying to do. So that's very positive, particularly if you really do start to understand how valuable what it is that you're doing. Okay, so to finish off, there was a Music Oracles card that was with the other cards at the beginning with the tarot card that you chose. I wanted to finish with this because it's humorous and things can get heavy in these sort of readings, as this did a bit. And also because I see music as being such a beautiful connection between the spiritual and the 3D, because music is such a major communication tool in the 3D, but the music of the spheres, the music of the divine and so forth. So this deck has different figures in music, the music industry history, and their advice for you. It could just be humorous. If so, just take the humor. It could also have some relevance as well. So take what resonates for you. Oh, you've got John Lennon. There you go. Okay, that makes sense. So John Lennon with his music and what he was trying to portray with that, there was a lot of political and spiritual and social heft to what he was trying to do, but there were also naysayers around him about what he was doing and what his motives were. So it's a very good allegory for you. His advice is, not everything you see is a mirage, not everything you hear is a lie. So some of it is, the attitudinal people, but there's a lot of people that love you, and they're not doing it to get something out of you. They're doing it because they can see the beauty in you. He also says, if you enjoy wasting time, then it isn't wasted. So kind of you do you, I think, is the message there. And lastly, peace is the only thing worth hoping for. So I think that's what you're going. You're going for the long game. You're going for the thing that is beautiful to the heart. And I think that's a very nice aspirational sort of icon to show the energy that you're bringing into the world. So Pile 3, I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 4, to your reading. So these cards are how the 3D world, people around you see you. These cards are how the divine sees you. And we'll be looking at what sort of connects, what's a bit different, and as we go through this with tarot and so forth, what you agree with, what you don't agree with, what you see already, what you don't see around these responses. In terms of the 3D world, how people see you, I think there's a couple of different ways, and some people might see you as both, and some people, depending upon how they connect and interact with you, may see one side more than the other. One group of people see you as a loner, an explorer. They're a little bit unclear about what you want to do for your career, who you want to connect with, whether you're going to be here tomorrow, even if you're here today. There's a sort of a sense with some people that they feel you're a little bit of a mystery. They can sense that you are connected, and they feel connected to you, and they feel understood by you, I think, for the most part. But I don't think that they feel that they understand you. So I feel that some people feel that there is something so wild and independent about you that they're not clear. I don't think that they think that you're unclear about your career or anything like that. But maybe you haven't settled or decided upon what you really want to do. You're still exploring your options. Even if you're in a career, you might not have committed to something long term. You might be one of those people that has a number of different career paths in your life. So there's something a little bit uncertain, unclear about you. They feel seen by you, but they feel you're always just that bit detached, and that on some sort of transpersonal level. But others, and as I say, sometimes it could be the same people, but I think there's also some people who see you more in a role, see you as a leader. So when they look at the explorer, when they look at the loner, when they look at the person who knows, and the person who maybe is a good leader around people, they're not as worried about not seeing who you really are because they've seen you in a role. So I feel like whether this is right now in your life or whether it's something that you're going to go through in your life, I think you will have leadership roles. I think you will be a manager, you will be a boss, you will be a business owner, you will be a political leader, whatever it is. And the people close to you will feel that you really understand them, but they'll still see you as a bit of a mystery. And that might be an issue for some of them. They might want to get closer than they feel you're letting them. For others, they will take it as a normal thing because it's in the role, that they don't think that, if you're a CEO of a company, that they're going to be able to just waltz into your office at lunchtime and say, let's talk about the game last night or something. There's that there won't be that level of familiarity, but it won't be a problem. So this has got to do with a path towards leadership. But it does come from the heart, and it does come from an explorer, but it suits you because you are a bit of a loner. And as I say, even in your closest relationships, maybe you're going to have to think about, are you a bit of a mystery to them? Can you open up as much as people open up to you? And the divine would probably say, yes, this is the one thing, because the reality is that you are incredibly compassionate. This empathy, you really are. And with the Vesica Pisces, that's sort of the feminine, the divine feminine sort of feeling and so forth. It's almost like this is the divine masculine side that people see, but there's also the divine feminine. The spirit is saying you're more in balance than that, and you can bring a lot into being and materially and so forth with the fertility aspects of the Vesica Pisces. But you are very, very compassionate. This is the empath. So there's a lot of agreement actually between the divine, I must say, and the 3D on that level. It's just that the 3D people see you more in the divine masculine, and the divine sees you more in either they're in the divine feminine or more balanced than that. And they see you as someone who makes huge breakthroughs around what is unconscious. This is the empath. This is the capacity to explore and to go where it's unclear and then know and bring it back. You're very like Persephone on that level. You're very much able to go into the underworld. The divine sees that in you, and this sort of great compassion and capacity to bring breakthroughs to others. This is why you are a leader. So there's actually quite a lot of agreement. The other thing I'm getting is it's almost like in the 3D world, it's like your Chokmah. It's like it's the wisdom of leadership, but it's a little bit removed. Whereas the divine sees you as Binah. These are the two Sephiroth at the highest levels, with just below Keter in the Kabbalah. And Chokmah is undifferentiated wisdom, whereas Binah is wisdom and compassion. So I feel like the divine sees you more as in the Binah area, but what people experience of you, because you're not always showing them your heart, you're just understanding theirs, feels more like Chokmah. So very interesting energy actually. You're probably highly spiritual, I would say. Now, one of the things that I wanted to look at before we get into the tarot was some past life cards to see if there's anything in what's happened in recent past lives that can talk about what the difference is here. And the only real difference that I can see, apart from, as I say, different people will be closer or not so close to you because of the nature of the role that you'll take on, is the divine masculine versus the divine feminine. So it'll be interesting to see if we pull a few cards around recent past lives to get a sense about whether that gives us some information about this difference of viewpoint. Pottery and crafts. Writer. Monk or nun. Okay, that might give us some clues. Caribbean islands. Okay, this is all over the place. So I think it's sort of saying there's a number of past lives that have impacted on this sort of capacity of you, and that makes sense. Anybody who's that much of a natural leader has probably had a number of past lives. Pottery and crafts feels to me like the sort of fertility and creativity that the divine is talking about, that kind of getting into it and sort of making things that are nurturing and caring. Scribe writer feels like the leader and the sort of more Chokmah. So this feels like Binah, this feels like Chokmah. So you have had lives where it has been very much in your mind and how you communicated and what you wrote, journalism, political treatises, religious treatises, whatever it might be. That's when you've been very much in your mind and potentially exploring new things very much on your own. Pottery and crafts feels more like it's in the community, more together. Then you've got, again, being isolated, being alone, being an explorer, monk, nun, not necessarily connecting with the love nature, connecting more with the spiritual sort of things and going to what's unclear and so forth. But you've had time in the Caribbean islands, which feels a lot more like having a nice time and a lifetime that's about sensuality and experience. So you've got both. And that's why the divine and the 3D are not really disagreeing, but at the moment most people are seeing more of the sort of scribe, monk, nun sort of energy, and the divine is saying don't forget about that energy as well. So that's kind of interesting. So what we're going to do with the tarot is we're going to do firstly 3 cards for what other people see in you that you probably know they see and you'd probably agree with, and then 3 for what you might not know that they see or you might not agree with, and then we'll do the same thing for the divine. Okay. So what you would agree with, and you can see that they see, is that you know how to build a foundation, you have the skills, you can build a business, you can do what is necessary, you can take things to new levels, you know what you're doing, you're very well studied. And I think that most people pick up a spiritual side to you, and you may be quite open about that. You certainly would agree with people who saw that spiritual empathy, knowledge and so forth. You were going, yeah, that is part of me, that's right, they're seeing it, but I do it very much around what I can provide materially for myself and for others. Over here, what you're not seeing is that you kind of break a few hearts in a way, not in a terrible way. I don't feel it's like you're Casanova or something. It's more that people want so much more from you emotionally. They want to celebrate with you your victories. They want to feel close. They want to be able to give back the empathy to you that you give to them. They want that kind of balance in relationships, but they feel like they can't have that. And you may think, well, that's not true. It's just the role I'm in. I think the only reason it would matter is when you are in love yourself, you need to make sure that that's not the feeling that the person is getting. They may be in love with you, but if they feel a bit alone in the love because you're not showing as much of yourself as you are giving to them, it's sort of one of that sort of weird situations where someone can feel lonely because they're not being asked to also give. You're very giving. Very much the nurturer, very much the person who looks after others. So part of the compassion is also to allow other people to give to you, I think, is the point of this pile 4. So let's see, similarly with the divine, what you kind of agree with, what you don't see or might not agree with around what the divine thinks of you. Okay, this is interesting. So what the divine sees that you probably know or would agree with is that you have a high degree of the explorer energy and so forth, a high degree of sort of creativity, of bringing in the new, of having the energy and passion to see things through, and the caring heart to make it a good thing for everybody. You look after your community, you look after your family, as I say, that's all very true, and the divine sees that, and you would agree. You go, yes, that's who I am. I am a force of passion and energy to provide for happiness of those around me. But the divine says, yes, that's true. You absolutely are that. But what you're maybe not seeing is that you get so into your own world, so deeply into your own world, that you are almost trapped by it, and you cease to make decisions that are for you as well. It's like you are doing all of this because you think if I care about myself and I ask for myself, that's somehow being lesser. I'm letting people down. So that kind of sense of staying, this is why the unconscious and the breakthroughs is important. The divine wants you to get back in touch with the moon, with your divine feminine, because at the moment you're a little bit more trapped by what your role is. And that is stopping you from making the full decisions and balanced decisions that you could make. It's like you're cutting off one level of information, and it's because you're not listening to that side of you. You may or may not agree with that, pile 4, but that's how the divine sees you. Okay, so let's have a look at some of the impacts of this. So we're going to firstly look at the fortune impacts of these impressions that you engender in people and in the divine. So we'll look firstly with astrology. 6th house, that's you being of service to others. Absolutely. Fire, that's the energy of sort of creativity and drive. And Taurus, wanting to bring in the good life, that's the Caribbean. I think that you are very much on the right pathway to create wonderful outcomes for people and to serve other people. That's not a problem. You will be very successful with that, and people will see it and will appreciate it. Let's have a look at some other fortune energy, so actual fortune decks per se. Hand of Fate, forces beyond your control intervene. The Mystic Circle, your abilities will be enhanced. And the Oracle, seek wisdom and guidance from elders. Okay. So this is suggesting something's going to come along that actually makes you think about broadening this. My gut is for most, this might be something like a love relationship where being only the protector is not going to be enough. There's something like that, or maybe something will happen with your business where you need the support and guidance of others as well too. And that Hand of Fate actually enhances your abilities. You realize you don't have to do it all on your own. Let's see what Chinese fortune energy is around you, pile 4. Paradise, lovely. This is picking up the Caribbean. And freedom, yeah. I mean, like, what you're doing is very good. You deserve paradise. You deserve a reward from this, and you deserve freedom. I think it is also saying that when you reconnect to that compassion side, that it also is compassionate for yourself and gets your divine feminine and masculine in balance and allows other people in, you'll actually find that there is a paradise and a freedom that can come from it. You don't have to carry it all. I think that's what it keeps saying. So to help you get there, we're firstly going to use a couple of decks that are about sort of spiritual or magical powers. Then we're going to use decks that are about relationship and career. So both the sort of spiritual and the 3D. So firstly, spiritual energies that can help you, pile 4. I think in getting to this freedom and paradise that you deserve, I think you really deserve it. Crystal power, focusing your energy, and mermaid, going deeper. This is into the unconscious. Do focus your energy on yourself as well as on others and go deep. What is it that makes you feel that you have to self-sacrifice, that you have to keep all your stuff in and just help everybody else? And allowing other people to go deeper as well too. Those that you trust, those that are of the right energy for you will certainly help. And if there is a love relationship, it will enhance the love relationship. Let's have a look from another deck about sort of magical energies. Sacred space, astrology. Okay, so sacred space, I think, is finding this. This is the loner in you. This is the explorer in you. You do need time out. You do need time to yourself. It is partly about a balance around that as well too, and letting go sort of truly of the heart in. So it's a bit of a double message that you can't let everybody in. You need a sacred space for your own heart and your own drives and so forth. But some can come in. You know, there's little spaces in this space where somebody could potentially go in and join her. And then astrology, you might just be saying astrology can help you. That, you know, if you know your chart and you know the astrological side of things, you might see that balance of masculine and feminine energy. You might see how to bring that energy in and how to let people in and who the right people are to let in too, in terms of understanding their charts as well. So talking about other people, let's have a look at energy around relationships that this sort of, these perceptions of you are creating at the moment. Harmony. Yeah, you're all about harmony. It's only whether you're missing out. This is the only issue. You know, this is why the divine wants you to not miss out as well too. But you create harmony. You absolutely do. You may sometimes create in people the feeling that they can't reach you as much as they'd like to, and that might break their heart a bit. But ultimately, within whatever milieu you do this, and a lot of you, it's going to be in business, workplace, politics or something, you are going to bring harmony. Let's look at how it is manifesting in your career. Investor. That came up for somebody else as well too. So it's possible that, you know, some of you have come to two readings, but certainly you are the sort of person that people would look to invest in. And this may be the thing that's coming along that you know, kind of shakes things up a bit and like takes you towards, you know, enhancing your abilities. There may be someone who can actually come and provide for you in a way to take it to the next level. It may literally come in the way that you start to open the door to let others help you, and in might be someone who brings money towards something or gives you a job offer or something like that. Okay, so to finish off pile 4, we had the music oracles. We had a card from the music oracles with the original cards that were under the tarot to bring you to the reading. And I wanted to use this because to me, music is such a connection between both the 3D in terms of how we communicate and how we create musically in the world, and then also the music of the spheres, so of the divine. So this deck has various icons from musical history over the years and their advice. It can sometimes just be funny, it just might be lighthearted, or it might have a profound message or two for you. So take from it what works and leave the rest. And we have, oh, Leonard Cohen. Wow. Okay. That energy really fits, I think, for you. I think that he had that really deep sort of sense of understanding of humanity and of spirituality and of life and of love and all of those sort of things. And I think a lot of people look to him. But he always seemed to me, and I mean, I don't know a lot about his life, so this may or may not be accurate, but he always seemed to me to be a little bit detached, a little bit in the philosophical, a little bit in the spiritual. So it may be, I don't know what impact that had on his emotional lives, but I can see this as a good energy, a good allegory of your energy. His advice is, first, when it comes to art, all that matters is telling your story well. So this is telling your story too. This is the thing. Don't be so sort of unable to be reached, so much of a loner. He says, travel lightly through the darkness. And I think you can do that. You have the capacity to sort of go into the unconscious really well, and the divine's very much behind you there. And last but not least, he says, learn to live in the intervals between events. Okay, so maybe it's in between what you do to help others that you can actually let them in a bit more. Maybe that's the last piece of advice that really brings it together. In any case, I hope you enjoyed the reading, Pile 4. If so, please like the video and subscribe. And if you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.